Hi friends, it's Becky, and I'm going to be doing one of our favorite sort of format videos that we do here on the Becky and Jenny Beading Together channel, and that is when we get our Bargain Bead Box and then our companion bundle. We like to do a little video, well, not a little video, it's going to be a long video, so settle in, get a drink, put your feet up. Anyway, we like to do a little video where we make two sets of jewelry using both the Bargain Bead Box and the companion bundle. Now, what is the companion bundle? It is a limited edition bundle of beads from Bead Box Bargains that is the sister store to the subscription Bargain Bead Box, where they usually have closeout prices, things like that. And Lauren usually curates a little bundle that she puts together to go along with the subscription box. And it's usually very limited in quantity. It sells out very quickly. A lot of the items that were part of that bundle might still be available for purchase, so you could find some of them at the sister store, but you might not find all of them. We do have an unboxing both for this one and for the Bargain Bead Box. We've also got a couple of tutorials already on our channel using the Bargain Bead Box that both Jenny and I have put together. But we're going to be doing this, I'm going to have my video and then Jenny will have hers. I tend to stick with, this set is the Bargain Bead Box and this set is the bundle. Jenny likes to mix them together, whichever way strikes your fancy, whichever way you like to watch or create yourself. We hope that you find some inspiration from either or both of our videos. When Jenny's is finished, we'll put a link in the description below so you can follow along and watch her creations as well. Additionally, this is going to be a long video. I'm going to be making two sets of jewelry, so if you want to skip ahead at any point, I will put chapters in at the bottom of the thing. You'll see the little lines line up. You can fast forward to whichever parts you want. But if you're here for the long haul, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. This is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to show you the links that I'll be making for the Bargain Bead Box. And this is the set that I'll be using. I'm going to be using these links for both the necklace and the bracelet, and I'm going to be doing something different for the earrings, but I will be using these links for all three of the pieces of jewelry, and I'll be using these for both the necklace and the earrings. We're also going to be using these sunstone, or what was this actually? It's been a while since I opened it. I need to remember what those were. Peach moonstone and sunstone nuggets. That's what we've got. I knew it was something like that. So we've got these nugget beads that we're going to be using. I'm also going to be using my pendant, and I have one of these fancy spacers left over after some of my other projects. I'm going to be using one of those. I'm also going to be using these beads, the 6mm plated hematite beads, and some of these English cut crystal beads in the champagne luster. So I'm going to be making links with all of those. We're going to need to get this guy out of the way so we can focus better. Links with all of those. There'll be simple loop links, and I am using some 20 gauge wire for this. I'll go over 3 different ways of making these links with you, so that we've got different options if you don't have the same tools I'm using. And then after we do our Bargain Bead Box creation, we'll get to our companion bundle creation. So I'm going to move this guy out of the way for now so that we can concentrate on this. And we'll get to that afterwards. Again, if you want to skip forward, please feel free. But if you want to stay for the long haul, go right ahead as well. I'm going to move the rest of this out of the way so that I have more space on my mat. Get my wire moved over here. And let's talk about the design that I'm planning for this. I'm planning on doing a double strand necklace. I'm going to have a little focal like this that then has some of these links coming up along the sides, and then we'll have a little a few of these links right there with some of these dangles dropping for my second strand, and they'll be connected to each other using these links. So what I need to do before I get started on this is make my links, and I'm going to make enough to both do my necklace and also my earrings. You're going to want to save 6 of each of these beads, bead shapes, for the earrings. So if I set these aside and then just make links with the rest of them, that should be fine. Because when we do our earrings, we're going to use these as chandelier links. And so I'm going to want one of each of those on each of the drops. I'm moving those aside so that I can just concentrate on these for now. Alright, let's move the hardware out of the way. This is going to be my focal. Let's make it the links first, and then we'll do the focal, and then we'll assemble the necklace, and then we'll assemble the bracelet, and then we'll make the earrings. So for this type of link, there are a couple of different tools you can use. You can use a one-step looper to make your simple loops. You can use a round nose pliers to make your simple loops, or you could use another type of looping tool like a six-step bill making pliers. So I'll show you how to do this with each of these. Some additional tools that you need while you're making these loops would be some chain nose pliers and some flush cutters. Generally, with this, you don't need all of these other things, but I do like to adjust my loops with my pliers sometimes if they're not straight or something like that. So let me show you how to do this with the one-step looper first. And so for this, I'm going to be using my 20 gauge wire. I'm going to want to put this in. There's a hole here on the end of the one-step looper. Let me angle it so you can, there we go. So you can see that hole there. You can put a long piece of wire through that hole, and it just makes it so that it'll go all the way through. I don't need to use that, hold on, let me get this. I don't need to use that long piece of wire. That's going to be wasteful, so I'm going to bring this back, and just at the edge of this guy right here, I'm going to make sure that it juts past that one just a little bit. Bring this up, and as I squeeze it closed, it's going to loop around like that, and then if I angle this back just a little bit, it's going to give me my centered loop. And like I said, sometimes it's a little bit twisted when it comes out, so I'm going to use my chain nose pliers to make sure that it's good and closed, and also giving it a good healthy smush with my chain nose pliers helps to work hard in the loop so it doesn't come apart when you're using it. If I've already got my bead pre-strung on the wire, then I can go ahead and cut off about a finger's length of that wire again, so I'm not wasting too much of it. And you can then do a second loop. You hold the bead next to that first loop and hold it like this. You can do a second loop with your one-step looper, bring that around, knock that back, and it can be a little bit loose on here, which is fine if you don't mind that. I tend to, if I use the one-step looper, I'll do my first loop with the one-step looper and my second loop with my round nose pliers. So let me show you how I do it with a round nose pliers. We'll do it with our crystal guys. And I do like to put my bead on first so that I can measure off a decent amount of or the correct amount of wire. See, that's my wire wastage from that one link, not a long piece of wire. So for this, I like to go about 1/4 of the way down the barrel. Hold that the edge of the wire right there, and you know what, this needs to be cut flush. This is a pointy edge. There we go. Hold it right there in the pliers. You don't need to squeeze super hard on this, just hold it and then turn and keep turning until the end meets the wire on the other side. And then I can leave this in here and just rotate my pliers underneath it and give it a little twist, and that will help my loop get more centered so it's not leaning over to one side versus the other. And just like with the one-step looper, I'm going to adjust my loop and give it a healthy smush to help work harden it with my chain nose pliers. And then just like with the one-step looper, I'm going to go ahead and cut about 1 finger's length of this wire. And then I'm going to hold on to the wire, the loop, and this bead, and either use my finger to bend it over or a set of pliers to bend it over. One or the other will work, depending on how soft the wire is and how much leverage you get will depend on whether you can bend it with the pliers or use your fingers. This is fairly soft wire, it's dead soft, so I don't have any problem doing it, and by holding it firmly I had enough leverage so I could do it that way. This part of my finger, I know from experience, is about 1 centimeter in length, and that's where I want to go ahead and snip that wire. If you have a measuring tool, go ahead and use that instead. That's my 1 centimeter, and that just lops off that little extra bit. And then I can use my round nose pliers and roll that up towards where that bend is until it's touching on the other side. And you can see there's a lot less wiggle room on that bead, and that's one of the reasons why I like doing the first loop with my one-step looper and the second loop with my round nose pliers. I'm just going to demonstrate basically the same thing as the round nose pliers, but using my one-step looper, just so that we've got like all of the tools covered. Let's see, what are we missing? One of these. Let's get one of these on here. One thing I do is work out some of the kinks in the wire by rolling it in my fingers. You can bend it around one finger and then around the thumb the other way gently, and it works out the kinks and warms it up so that it's easier to use. So, just like with the round nose pliers, I don't have to do this down a certain point of the barrel. I just have to pick a size to use. But it's going to be the same. You want to pay attention to which loop you're using, whereas with the round nose pliers, it could be either side that you're using to make your loops. Alright, so then once I've got that up there, I'm going to do the exact same thing where we cut just a little bit of that wire. And this is not completely closed, so I'm just going to close it. There we go. And here, let me demonstrate how to use the pliers to do that bend. When I do a little bend on the pliers, I'm going to I have one back jaw and one front jaw. I'll rest the back jaw gently on top of the bead, and then I'll tip this at an angle and then close it. I'll just squeeze it closed while it's tipped at that angle, and that gives me a nice little bend that I can then use. That's my little measurement tool. And then we can go ahead and use this. If you're worried about your loops not being consistent sizes because you don't have marks or something on your round nose pliers, you can mark your round nose pliers at the same point to use the same section each time you create a loop. I find when I do that the marks wear off very easily. even when I use like a permanent marker, which is why I don't do it. I've done it several times before and then they always wear off. And that's why I just don't do that. It's a lot of work just to have marks that go away. So if you can remember where it is, I do have some little wear marks that I can eyeball. I don't know if they show up on, just from consistently using that part of the barrel. But it's not from the permanent marker. But this will give you consistent loops every single time you use it, which is a good reason to use it. This will also give you consistent loops every single time you use it. So if you're worried about consistency, use something like this or this. If you just have this though, you're going to be just fine. And if you want to, you absolutely can mark your barrel to make sure that you're rolling them at the right and same point every single time you use it. So what I'm going to do is make up all of my little links, and when we come back, and it's going to be like a minute or a couple of seconds, when we come back we'll do our little focal here. I'm still going to be using this for that, and then we'll start assembling the necklace after I do that. So let me make my links up and I'll be right back. Alright, so I have made some links and I'm ready to get my focal made and start putting this together. So for my focal, I've got some 22 gauge wire because this is a very delicate stone. It's pretty easy to put too much strain on it, so I just want to do a really simple loop here at the top with this wire. Gonna put this on here like a bead and then do a wrapped loop up here. It's gonna be wrapped loops on both sides for all of these. I'm also gonna be using my chain nose pliers for most of assembling this. I've got my round nose pliers for my loops here, some flush cutters for my wire, and I am adding some jump rings for some of the assembly. And then for closure, I've just got a little magnetic clasp. I didn't really like the clasp that came in this box, so I'm using magnetic clasp. And I've got a little matching one for the bracelet, so they will absolutely be a matching pair. Now, as far as the amount of links that I've made, I have a total of 15 of these crystal links, a total of 7 of the nugget links, and a total of 7 of these hematite links. And this is for the necklace. We've got a different count for the bracelet. For the bracelet count, it's going to be, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 of each of those types. So yeah, that'll be for the bracelet. Plus I'm using 1 of these for the bracelet, and I'm using 3 of these for the necklace. All right, let's get started on making this. I'm going to do my loop here on this first. It's going to be less of a loop and more of a kind of a straight shot through here that bends up and then over. But I want to give it plenty of room to be able to rock around or move, so I'm not going to have it be super tight right up next to that. I'm just bending this over here a little bit so that there's still some room up here. And now with my fingers, this is 22 gauge wire, so it's pretty easy to use. I'm just going to do a couple of wraps, and I'm just going to grab my pliers for that. And I'm going to tidy up those wraps in a minute after I snip off this excess wire. Got too much wire going on back here. So let's tidy up that loop. Oh. Let's straighten that out just a little bit. There we go. So very simple, not too tight. There's a little bit of a dangle, and I want that because I don't want to put any strain on this gemstone. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and stick this guy on there. And then I'm going to make a little loop and then attach that loop directly onto here. So I'm going to take my pliers and bend this wire back over the pliers. Then I'm going to take my finger and push this over the top here and around to the back. And before I start wrapping it, swing this open just a little bit so that I can attach this. Now it doesn't matter which side you put this in first because it's the same on both sides. If it had a blank front or a blank back or something, or a different front or back, you'd want to pay attention to how you were sliding that on so that it would end up facing forward. But since it's the same on either side, you don't have to stress about that. It's one thing you don't want to look at. Don't want to have to look at. Alright. Now we're just going to wrap this around until it comes down here to the end. Just a super simple bail. And that's just going to be the main focal part of this necklace. Alright, so now I'm going to put together the chain part. And so coming up from this, I'm going to want just the sunstone. I think, no, we're going up like this. We're going to start with that one. And hemetite, and I want 3 of each of these, like this. And then we're going to have this link. And then coming up from this link, or coming out from that link, going up along the back, that is when I'm going to introduce, and I'm going to do 4 each of all 3 of these together, the crystal beads here. So they're going to go in this order, and I'm just laying them out. I'm going to repeat that in that order when I do it. Now to attach these, it's going to be really simple. We're just going to go ahead and swing open one of these open loops, attach the next link, swing it closed. This type of activity is something that can be pretty meditative because it's kind of the same thing over and over again. You do want to pay attention to which bead you're attaching next. If you mess up though, you can just swing it open, pop it off, turn it around, put on the next one instead, if you make a mistake because you're not paying attention. But as one thing about making chain like this is, like, each step of it can be a sort of repetitive motion, sort of meditative practice sort of thing for you to do. And I don't know, I enjoy it. Sometimes I get busy though, and I can't spend as much time as I want to doing things like this. So it's nice to be able to have this time. Okay, now for this part, to attach it to this link, I'm actually using a jump ring because the loop that I made isn't super huge, so it's going to be a little bit stiff on these because these are a little bit thick. So this is just going to allow it to swing more easily, to give it more movement and not have it get stuck. So open up the jump ring, attach the connector, and the link, and then close that up. Alright, And then I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to put all of these links together. There we go. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3, okay. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so yeah, 3 of each of just these two, and then we've got 4 each of these other ones in this order. I'm going to go ahead and put these together and attach them to this using another jump ring, and I'll be right back with that. And then we're going to be attaching it to here and making a little middle layer or top layer with these dangles and 7 of these crystal beads. So I will come right back after I've put these together and we will get the rest of it combined. Alright, so after you've put this together, repeat it and do exactly the same thing for your second strand. And then we are ready to start putting this completely together. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and attach these two to my focal, and I'm going to go ahead and use some jump rings to do that. I'm going to grab a second set of pliers because the round nose pliers are fine. They're not as easy to use when you're opening and closing jump rings as just a second set of pliers is, because you can just use those to hold that end steady. Alright, now goodness, I just had a great idea for this. No, never mind. Next time we get things like this, I will use those connectors differently. I just had an idea for like kind of a multi-strand sort of bracelet using those connectors, or even a I mean, this is going to be sort of multi-strand as well, but just an idea that popped into my head. But I'm already committed to doing these, so I'm gonna put that in the back burner for now. Sometimes you can get inspiration from all sorts of fun places, like mid-project inspiration for something else. Which is always fun when you're like, I can't stop now. I gotta finish this. Now I could go ahead and leave this as it is with just those connectors and everything, and it would be a beautiful necklace that is just right for me. But I'm going to add some sparkle and dangle to this by connecting these crystal links together. And I'm going to be using some jump rings to do it, which will make this a little bit longer, but that's okay because then it'll drape nicely. And I'm going to add these dangles in there. And it's a lot easier to add these dangles with jump rings than by trying to attach them to these simple loops while we're doing it. So let's go like this. Now I've got 7 of these that we're going to be using. The first ones, I'm just connecting 2 of the crystal links together. The next one, I'm going to connect 2 of the crystal links and add a dangle. I'm going to do that for the next 4 that I add. So there we go, that's going to hang like that. And for this, I am going to want to pay attention to where the dangle ends up so that it doesn't end up on this side or the top side. So for this next one, I think I'm going to do the crystal and then the dangle and then the next one. There we go. That way they're dangling on the correct side of the chain without the links having to be twisted. Alright, let's do that for this one. And a dangle. Balls. So we'll have a little more movement too on here. And it just adds a little bit extra to this design. I don't always add a ton of extra stuff, so when I do, I like to actually do it. Alright, let's make sure we're twisted the right way. Okay, and a ball and a dangle. Yay! And then one more. You were on the wrong side. There we go. Hold on. And for this one, I'm not attaching a dangle, and I did set aside 6 of these dangles for the earrings, by the way. So I am going to be using those in the earrings, which is why I've got 4 of these left, because there were 10 in the bead box. Right, it doesn't really matter which direction I go for this one, because there's no dangles. Alright, but it does matter which direction we go in when we're attaching it here. So let's do this so that we are all straightened out. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. This side. And then making sure that that's not twisted for this end. Okay, so I'm going to want to attach it like that. And again, just making sure my chain isn't twisted. I'm going to start on this side and go through. It helps to lay it down flat sometimes so that it doesn't get moved around. There we go. Yeah. I'm going to just try it on real quick, see how that's going to fit, and I believe that is going to be absolute perfection. What a great layering piece. Well, what a great layer. It's already layering, it doesn't need to be added to other layers of things. But that's going to be fantastic, just the way it is. Let me grab a couple more jump rings and attach my clasp, and then we can move on to the bracelet and the earrings, because that is going to be pretty easy to get to on there. I love this. I absolutely love this. This was such a fantastic bead box. And no, I haven't gotten my new one yet. By the time you guys see this, Jenny will have opened hers. Hers shipped before mine, and it arrived before mine. So, she got to do the unboxing with y'all. But I will absolutely, as soon as I get it, we'll get it sorted, and then I will sit down and make something with it and tell you what I love the most about it. Like which parts are my favorites. I'm very excited about the new one. But I'm also really happy that I've still got this one to play with while I'm waiting. Alright. And this magnetic clasp, by the way, I did purchase from Bead Box Bargains, so, you know, came from the sister store. And it goes pretty well with this necklace. Alright, I'm going to move this aside and let's get out some links that I already made the links for these while I was making the others. So for this, we're just going to have this guy right in the middle. And I think we're going to go ahead and go on this side and this side. And I'm going to do basically the same order of beads that we did on the other with a chain. Like this, I'm just going to make a chain. It's basically the same kind of chain that I did for the back end of the necklace on that. So let's get these linked together and I'll find out if I need to add any extra links or if it is just perfect to be able to add my clasp to. It's a fairly simple bracelet, but again, I think I'm gonna need to use the jump rings to attach. So let's grab these. I know y'all can hear Natalie shaking her head, and I usually have someone telling me that I need to get her ears looked at, and I just want to assure you that they have been looked at. We've been cleaning them out. We have an ointment that goes in, but they still get itchy even while they're healing. So she'll sleep, and then she'll wake up and shake her head and rummage around and then go back to sleep. This is just something that happens when her ears get yucky. It usually happens when there's a change in the weather, which I realized a little while ago is probably because of allergies for her. So she does also take some allergy medication. And here where we're at right now, we've got cedar pollen. It is all over the place. So her ears are just having a real hard time. Same as with some of my friends who have cedar allergies. And Yeah, so just want to reassure you that yes, my dog's ears are being looked after, but she does still shake her head. And I'm just double checking this bracelet. That goes to about the middle of the wrist. All right, let's add the other side. She'll wake up, and if I'm not right next to her, she'll come looking for me too. So she gets closer, and so it becomes louder. Are you gonna lay down? Yeah, you can lay down. Alright, see what I mean about this being one of those activities that can be really meditative, just putting links together. And I know I probably could have cut away and come back like I did with the necklace, but it's a pretty short amount of time for that. And I'm just double checking my size here, and I think that's going to be perfect for adding, especially with the jump ring on each side, my clasp. So let's do that. Let's add a clasp, see how she looks. I think this is one of the fun things about doing like a beaded chain, sort of a necklace and combo, is you can use the same chain on a bracelet that you would with the necklace. And the reason that this is being so difficult is because the clasp is attaching itself to my pliers and then not behaving when I want it to go the other way. So I've got that clasp on that end, and now let's do this other clasp on the other end. I'm just gonna go like this and like that. It's like this and like that. And okay. Okay, so that's gonna need to be turned up. Alright. There we go. And the nice thing about using a decorative clasp like this is even if it like rotates so that that's up at the front or at the top, it still is going to look good either way. So that is my bracelet. That goes with the necklace we just made. Now it is time to pull out the beads for the earrings. And I should have done one already so that I could do the other one with y'all. But it shouldn't take very long for me to do one of them, and then I can do the second one on my own. So I'm going to have my 3 dangles, 3 chip beads. Let's do one big one in the middle, and then 2 on the sides. There we go. And we'll have a crystal. Okay, we'll have one of these guys in a crystal. Whoop. So we'll have these up here. Yep. And the question is, do we want the crystal down lower? No, I think we want the chip beads down lower. Okay. And the super fun thing about this is that I can, ooh, you know what I want to do? Yeah, I think it'll be fine just like that. I'm going to grab some more of this 22 gauge wire. It's right here. Or should I use the 20 gauge wire that I used for the links on the bracelet? Oh, let's do 22 gauge. It'll be fine. Maybe. I'm just trying to decide if I want to do simple loops or wrapped loops for these. And I think I want to do simple loops. And so 22 gauge is pretty soft. I can do simple loops on it, but I don't. Yeah, it'll be fine. Let's do simple loops. All right. So I'm going to slide these guys on here. Simple loops of 22 gauge. So I'm going to definitely want to squish the loop after it's been made. I'm just going to go ahead and use my pliers, my round nose pliers here, about 1/3 of the way down the barrel so that it's not a tiny loop. So we're going to go all the way around like that, and then bend this back so that it is focusing, hopefully, and turning it into a centered loop. Then I'm going to give that a nice healthy smush to work hard in that so that it stays round. Push these guys up here, give myself about a finger's width of wire down here. And now I'm going to want that to be, you know what, it doesn't actually matter. It could be parallel, it could be perpendicular. These are round so they can turn any way that I want. I'm going to go ahead and do parallel though, just for the heck of it. I'm going to bend that over. You can use your fingers or you can use that. It's bending sort of in the same direction that this is rolling. Ellen! Alright. Up. Sorry. Drop that. But we're doing the same type of simple loop that we did for our links. Yeah, we're just doing this for consistency's sake, I believe. So, nope. So now I'm going to swing this open and attach this little ball here. Then I can swing this open and attach it to one of the links, loops on this link. Make sure that's nice and straight. And then I'm going to do the same with these next two, but I'm going to attach it on these two sides so that it hangs like a chandelier. So let me get these made and I'll be right back. And then once those chandelier dangles have been added, you can either do another link here with another bead, like maybe something like this, or let's see, do I have an extra of these? Yeah, something like that, and then add your ear wire, which honestly I'm gonna go for this one because I sort of love that look with this. Or you could just attach the ear wire directly and skip this link altogether. But I do need to adjust the loop on here and make that parallel. There you go. That way, when I put my ear wire through it, it'll hang correctly. So I just need to repeat that one more time and I'll have a pair. But that will go with my bracelet, which goes with my dangly necklace. Actually, let's move these guys out of the way because they are a little bit in the way. But yeah, I will make that second earring so that it's a pair in a minute. We'll do that off camera. And then I will clear this out so that we can work on our projects from the companion bundle. This was from the Bargain Bead Box for December 2025. The time traveler one. And I kind of love it. Kind of love it. Very happy with the way that it has turned out. I'm just checking the way that this is going to hang. It's going to hang really nicely. Love that set. I'll finish the earring. And when we do the wrap up, you can see the second earring as well. All right, so let me get this cleared out and I will be back for the companion bundle set. All right, so now we are pulling things out of the companion bundle for the Time Traveler Bargain Bead Box. Now this companion bundle I unboxed already. We got it all sorted and organized. This is where those pearls that I'm using here were. They were here. These ceramic beads were here. These beads I added from the store. There were a couple of findings that I also added. But this is for the most part what was there. So I pulled out some of the beads from there. I really love these ceramic beads and the soft romantic pinks that we have in them. So they're going to be the main point of this. But I also love these pearls that came on a strand. They weren't all ombre on the strand. They were kind of like spaced out randomly. But I'm going to put them in a kind of an ombre order as they go up along the sides of my necklace. We're also going to do the same with some of the others that were from that on the bracelet. And then these really fun beads are these ones that they've got like a built-in bead cap. Basically, they're gold finish, and then they do like table cut faceting on there to reveal the color of the bead inside of there and add a little extra sparkle. So these are a really fun addition to this, but they're that soft pink that is going to just go really well with the rest of these. And then we're going to have some of these kind of barrel melony spacers, and instead of using the the toggle clasps that came in this box as the closure, I'm going to turn it into a focal. I'm going to be adding this ceramic bead right here in the middle of this using some 26 gauge wire. You don't need a lot of the 26 gauge wire. This is about 4 inches worth, and that's going to be plenty. So I'm going to be using that. I'm going to turn this into my little focal. For the most part, it's going to be all about the pearls and the ceramic beads though, so it's not going to need to be super fancy on that. I've got some jump rings and lobster clasps that I'm adding so that we can get both the necklace and the bracelet that I'm doing into it. And we'll be using one of the ceramic beads for the bracelet. I'll set that aside over there. And 2 for earrings. So we'll get to the earrings in a little bit. But that's the beads that I'm going to be using from the companion bundle. Now, if you're curious what a companion bundle is, just a reminder, it is a bunch of beads that they gather together from the sister store, the Bead Box Bargains, that are meant to accompany or expand what you can do with your Bargain Bead Box. They are very limited in quantity. They sell it very quickly, and so the box may not be available, but some of these individual items, like maybe these toggle clasps or the spacers, possibly these beads, they may still be available at Bead Box Bargains. So it's worth checking and seeing if they are. So I've laid out the order that I want to string this in, so I'm not going to mess with that, but I am going to pick up this bead. We're going to start the focal, and then I'm going to do some stringing. So the tools that I'm using are flush cutters for cutting my wire, round nose pliers that will be useful when I do my earrings, and some chain nose pliers for all sorts of plier needs. And then when I string this on, I'm going to be doing some crimping. I've got some 2x2 crimp tubes and my magical crimper. It's my favorite way of crimping. You can 100% crimp using different methods if that is your preference. If you do something other than magical crimper, I would suggest using a crimp cover, just because sometimes crimps can be a little bit rough. The magical crimper makes them nice and smooth, so that's why one of the reasons why I like to use that versus other methods of crimping. And I'm going to be stringing it on some antique brass color beading wire. This is the medium 0.019 inch. It's the best wire to use with magical crimpers. Alright, so let's get started on this. Again, I've got about 4 inches of my 26 gauge wire, and I'm going to take one end and I'm just going to hold it, this end out here on the side. I'm pinching it with my finger, and then I'm going to go through this little loop here a couple of times, like through the big hole and then through the little hole, and about 3 times. This way we can wrap one end of my wire onto this side of that. Each time I pull it through, I pull it tight and then direct it where I want it to go. When I go through the next hole, I'm doing a big bend so that it doesn't get kinked, going through a big bend, and there we go. Just going to do that and then grab my pliers, and I'm just going to give this a little bit of a squeeze with the wire the way it is, just to help tamp it down. And I've got this excess wire over here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that now so that it is out of the way by snipping that. Alright. So now that I've got this wire here, I'm going to string on my ceramic bead. And this is going to go ahead and suspend this right here in this. This is the loop part of a toggle clasp, but I don't want to use it as a closure. I'm going to use it as my focal. So that's what I'm doing with this. So now I'm going to go around and through the other side, and kind of direct the wire here next to that loop, but not right up next to it because I want there to be a little bit of room for the rest of it. There we go. And then I'm going to need to go through there again. There's a little bit of space, not a lot of wiggle room, but enough that I can feed the wire through. And this part we're going to be going a little more slowly, a little more gently, just because there's not as much maneuverability. Just to do a couple more loops. There we go. And then once I bring that around here to the other side, I can cut off my excess wire. And I'm going to tamp this down with my pliers, if I can stop dropping them anyway. Trying to tuck that end in there. It keeps wanting to go the opposite direction, but I'm the boss of the wire. It's not the boss of me. There we go. So now I've got my ceramic bead in here in my pretty focal. That was using this and just letting it be its own sweet thing. I'm going to grab a 6mm jump ring, and we'll open that up and attach it to the top of my little ampersand here. That's what it looks like to me anyway, an ampersand. Swing that open. And then swing it closed. Make sure it's good and closed. So now when I do my stringing, it will hang out right there. Speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and mess up my stringing order. As you do. But no, I'm going to go ahead and start from this end, start stringing, check my length, and then once I'm satisfied that this is going to be, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a little bit longer than I normally do my necklaces, but I like having multiple of these pearls so that it kind of emphasizes my ombre that I'm going for. I was going to do 3, but that was just going to be a little too long, especially with this small focal. The balance felt off, so the smaller ones I think are going to work a lot better. Just 2 of them instead of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my beading wire and just start from the end. Here we go. Super quick, super fun. This is just some simple stringing, which is one of those happy places, one of those places I can have everything working out right for me. For some reason, these pearls are a little bit I think it's just the coating gumming things up and making it a little more difficult for me to string. There we go. This is a beading awl, by the way. It's got some sort of rough stuff around the outsides of it, and then you can just twist it gently in the hole of a bead to help widen it or to clear out some gunk or something that's in there. I also have a little bit of a weird thing on the end of that wire, so there we go. That's going to make it a little bit easier. And as always, if you don't want to sit and watch me string, you can skip to the next part. There will be chapters on this video. But so many of my friends like to have a little YouTube beading party with me, working on their projects while I'm working on mine. And so I'm leaving this stringing in this video for that reason. Right, getting to the focal. And string this on right here. And like that, I'm going to just double check my length. Oh, that's perfect. And now I'm going to make sure that I have enough wire for stringing the rest of this. And also, oh, you know what though? I started from one end and going to the other. I don't have to snip this off yet. I can just keep going. That's fantastic. Now this one I don't have all laid out in a row, so I am going to be paying attention to what comes next a little bit more. So I've got my spacers, my little built-in bead cap guys, and then another spacer, and then 2 of the ivory colored beads, pearls, and then another spacer, one of my bead cappy guys, a ceramic bead cappy guy, and a spacer. And then we'll move on to the next one in a row. And these are, they feel like they're whiter, but they might just be like grayer or purplier. And the reason I put them in this spot in my ombre was because they're a little bit closer to the pink than the ivory was. Because they're just a cooler color. This is a warm color, this is a cool color. And so the pink is a cool color, and then it blends back to warm again. So it goes warm, cool, warm. And that's the reason I put it in that order. You might do a different order if you're doing an ombre, which would probably work a little bit better for your sensibilities if you have a different viewpoint than mine. But for me, it just works better. It feels better to me to have it go like that, to have a cooler white next to the pink, because the pink is a cooler color. It's not a warm pink. It's very light pink though, because the next one is the peach tone, and that's where we head to warm again. I love this. Alright, so more of these spacers. Another one of these guys. Ceramic bead. This guy and spacer. And now we've got our peach pearls. And up here, this is around the back side of the necklace. For this one, since I wanted to use some of the ceramic beads in earrings and one of them for a bracelet, I did not continue and carry up just around the back side of the necklace with my ceramic beads. I decided to just do, for this part, the spacer, one of these guys, and a spacer, and then add these darker apricot-y color ones. Alright. And then just to finish this off, we've got another section with these two. And then we'll have some crimping and some closures on the other side of this. So we've got a little bit of sparkle, we've got a lot of glow from the pearls, we've got some pretty pink, and we've got some warmer tones up near the top. And that is just right. That is just what I wanted it to be. So I'm going to make a little loop here on the end with a crimp. And we'll go slow for the first crimp, and then we'll do it a little bit faster for the rest of them. So for the first crimp, we're going to go ahead and put the crimp on the wire and then bend it back on itself, go back through the crimp. This is pretty standard for most crimping when you're making a loop. What isn't standard for most crimping is the style of crimping. So the magical crimper has a single cavity in here versus like a regular crimper that might have like a little taco style thing where it folds the crimp in half and then gives you a little spot where you can compress the halves of the crimp together. With this one, I'm going to center that crimp right there in the concavity, give it a smush, and it just presses down the corners of that crimp. You want to make sure that it's centered when you do that, right in that concavity. If it isn't, it won't work as well. You'll get lopsided, wonky crimps. And then you turn it at a 90-degree angle and do another smush, and then it doesn't look like much now, but wait, keep going. Make sure it's centered each time you do this and go from different angles all the way around. I find it easier to open slightly, keep it centered there, rotate it right there, and then close it again. It's just easier to not lose that positioning if you don't take it out of there in between. I gotta get a different angle though. There we go. So when you stop feeling any resistance, then you can pull that out, and all those corners, all those wonky parts, they've all been worn down and smoothed out into a nice little ball of crimp. And I usually sometimes get somebody who says that crimp will never hold, but I just want to show you that this is a secure crimp. It's a very strong crimp. I've never had them come apart on me, so this will hold. And you don't need a crimp cover because there are no sharp corners or anything that's going to scratch your skin. And it's a nice smooth ball, so it works in jewelry. It doesn't look out of place. It doesn't look weird. It's just a little loop right there at the end next to that. In fact, often it will blend in with beads. Like I have used this in place of like a 11-0 seed bead when I was having to add some extra beading wire in something. My beading wire was too short, so I just chose a spot in a strand where I would normally have some seed beads, and I put that in instead of one of the seed beads, and it blended right in. You couldn't even tell that I had added some extra wire to my work because it blends in. It works well. Anyway, I love magical crimping. That's why it's my favorite. But it's not for everyone, and that's okay. You don't have to love it too just to watch my channel. Alright, so we're going to slide that down there, move my wire back through it, make sure I've got a nice loop here. I also sometimes get asked why I don't use wire guardians or French wire to protect my wire, and it's just because this is a really durable wire. It doesn't kink. It's a 49 strand wire. Or is it 49? Yeah, it is. It's 49 strand, so it's really flexible, but also very strong, and the coating is really strong. And so I find that I don't need wire guardians for that. So that's just one less thing I have to buy, one less thing I have to keep track of. Using quality wire usually means that you don't have to use all the extra things that you might need to use in order for cheaper wire to have its longevity. Alright. And yes, there is a little bit of space between the crimp and these beads, and that's so that there's movement in the wire. I don't want a stiff necklace. I want something that will drape nicely, and that's why there was a little bit of space. I took up some of that slack when it was curved, so it will actually still curve. I am loving this. And that is super pretty to me. Really happy that this has worked out the way it did. Let me grab 2 of these to keep for earrings. I've got my 2 of these over here and 2 of those. We're going to keep those. And a pearl or 2. Question is, which pearls should we do? So as far as this goes, I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 here. This is going to be the center of my bracelet. And then we'll have 1 of those. And I think I might do a little something like this for the bracelet. Just go ahead and do all of these guys all in a row. Was that all of my spacers? I am not sure. Let me see, because I wanted to keep 2 for my I think that was all of those spacers, yes. Okay. Which is totally fine. So I think that'll work like this. Let me grab my beading wire I just had. And I'm going to start from this end and go across, and then we'll take a look at the length after I get these guys on here, and I'll figure out if I need to add more beads to either end. These are sort of large beads, so just judging by how long it is when it's laid out like this isn't going to be a great plan. I'm going to want to see it wrapped around something, either on a mandrel or a wrist, because it will need to be longer if you've got larger beads. If you've got smaller beads, it'll need to be shorter, and that's just because of the way larger beads sort of move a wire away from the center of the circle. So having them right next to each other kind of emphasizes the ombre a little bit more, but I'm not mad about that. I think it will be some pink beads. Alright, let me get this guy on here. Ooh. I need to literally just put that guy away. Sometimes when they've got things like this, there's a little bit of vegetable material that gets, it's like a little seeds, they're like rice husks. They'll get stuck in some of these sometimes. It's totally normal and not something to be concerned about. They're not actual seeds, it's just the husk of that. or straw or something like that. Alright. Ooh, so that's going to need to be a little bit longer. So how are we going to do that? More pearls or more of these guys? Yeah, let's go ahead and just add a couple more of these guys. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on that side. I'm visually estimating how much longer it will be if these are on that side. And I can actually, 1, 2, 3, remember to pull 3 off. I can do that by putting them on here and then switching them over after I cut my wire. Okay, yes, that's going to be perfect. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to make a loop with this, and then we'll be using some jump rings for closures on it. So this will be a little more color blocky, which I'm super fine with. It doesn't need to be exactly the same stringing pattern on a bracelet. And sometimes I like having things that go together but aren't super matchy-matchy. Things that, you know, contain the same beads but maybe in a different pattern, like this. Okay, I need extra. Yeah, I like that. That's going to be a good bracelet for this. And just like with the other one, I'm going to want to take up some of my slack before I crimp to make sure that this isn't going to be too stiff. And what that means is once that straightens out again, there will be a little bit of room between that last bead and the crimp. I also, in order to get the sides of the crimper, they're fairly small, but you do need a little bit of space. Usually enough space like that you can wiggle your fingernail into is going to be enough to still be able to center your crimp when you get to that second one. Okay. So that gives you a little bit of breathing room on that bracelet. I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers so I can open and close some jump rings. I will just attach one jump ring to one end so that the lobster clasp can grab onto the jump ring instead of the wire. There's actually nothing wrong with it grabbing the wire. I've actually done several bracelets like that before. Again, this is a very durable wire. And sometimes it's nice to just have a loop like that that's not a big deal. But then there are other times when you want to make sure that you've got a bigger goalpost, I guess, for getting the end of that lobster clasp in, rather than just the small loop that I just created. I just want to make sure that that is even. There we go. Why is it just fine when I'm holding it? There we go. Jump rings, am I right? Anyway, let's go ahead and add our lobster clasp to this end. And sometimes I like to have a something to help me assist. Right now my magnetic clasp from the previous one is doing that job. It was holding on to that jump ring for me. And also my piece of extra wire while I did that. And now look, actually, they kind of look great next to each other. We could do stacking stuff with these, but that does fit perfectly. It's not too loose, not too tight, just right. So that's our bracelet that goes with this necklace from the companion bundle. So let's make some earrings real quick. I'm going to grab some wire. Got some ear wires here. And I'm just going to grab some 22 gauge vintage bronze wire. And I'm going to make a little swirly head pin. So I'm going to need a significant amount of wire for this. I think about 8 inches should do. So 8 inches of wire for each head pin, because we're going to do a little swirl. I have not done a little swirl for a while, and it is always really fun to just do spiraling. I love spiraling. And little spirally head pins. Decorative, fun, and in my opinion easy to do. Once you kind of get the hang of it, it's pretty. It's pretty. Alright, so I'm going to take one end. This end has been flush cut, and I'm going to start making a little loop right at the very tip of my round nose pliers with it. I'm just going to cut off just this little end. There's a slightly straight bit right there, so that we've got only curvy bits on this. And I want this loop to be as tight as possible. And then as I go, and you want to go slow when you do this, as I go around, I'm going to switch to my chain nose pliers because that'll hold it. And I'm just kind of pressing this into the wire. I'm holding it with my finger. I'm pressing gently, slowly, as I rotate this around. And that's the trick to spiraling. Do it slowly. If you spiral too fast, things get out of control. Just spiral slowly. Keep it going. A little bit at a time. And I think I'm going to do 3 full revolutions. So there's 1, 2, 3 on there, but not on the other side. So let's go all the way around until it passes where it starts. Right there. And then once it's past that, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to do a little bit of a bend right there, just to get that standing straight up. You want to hold on to your spiral when you do that. And that's going to be at the bottom of my earring. And so is my ceramic bead. Then I'm going to have this guy here on top of that ceramic bead. I'm just stacking guys on here. One of these, and now I want to pick which pearl color I want on here. Is it going to be the soft ivory? Is it going to be the shiny, almost gray white? Is it going to be the soft peach? Or is it going to be a pink guy? Where's my pink ones? There, that's pink. I think I'm going to go with pink. Let's go with pink. Alright, so now that I've got my stack of beads, let's make turn this to the side actually. I'm going to make a little loop up here, a wrapped loop. I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm just going to bend my wire over the top of that lower jaw behind there, and then pull the wire up over the top of it, open the jaw, rotate that lower one up to the top, and then bring the wire all the way around. And now that the wire's all the way around there, you can either use your fingers or another set of pliers to start rotating with that. And I have enough wire that I can wrap down around here and make it extra fancy. So I'm going to go around, and with this there's going to be a lot of pinching the wire because I'm going to want it to go the way I want it to go. Going around the front of my pearl, around behind the spacer, down around the front of that guy, between those two, and then down around the front of the ceramic bead. And I'm just wrapping it around my little spiral. Now I can snip that off. Make sure that end is tucked. Use the proper tool for that, Bex. There we go. And that should be a good earring to go with the rest of these guys. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and make that second one here with y'all. If you want to skip past me making the second one and catch the wrap up, you are welcome to. Sometimes my friends like to see me do it again because they might have missed a step during the first one. And not want to rewind. Sorry, that was off screen. I want to make sure it's past where I started so that when I pop this up, it's almost at the exact right spot. Right. So now we've got ceramic bead, this guy, a spacer, and a pearl. Then we're going to do a wrapped loop up here at the top. Should have gone the other way around. That's okay. They won't be mirrored. They'll just go together. Sometimes you can mirror your swirls by wrapping in the other direction at the start, but I did not think about doing that. So I'm just going to go with what I'm doing. Now, one good thing about wrapping it like this is that the ceramic beads have very large, rather large holes, so sometimes they wobble a little bit or rock when they're strung on next to beads that have sort of regular size holes. So doing it this way means that this will help hold it in place and keep it from wobbling or rocking when it's on there. Alright, so let's take a look at the entire set all together. And you are facing the wrong way, so let's turn you the right way. So this is our necklace, and this is our bracelet, and these are our earrings. I wanted something soft and romantic from the Time Traveler companion bundle. And let me pull out the first bundle that we made at the beginning of this video, or the first set, using the actual Bargain Bead Box beads and a little clasp that I added with those nuggets and crystals. And these are both earrings. I told you I'd finish that second one off camera. And then we have the necklace too. Sorry, I've been wearing it because I like to wear stuff when I make it. And there we go. This was a 2-layer necklace, and that is facing the wrong way anyway. No, now it is. Alright. With some dangles and all of that fun stuff. So that was both of the projects that I made using the Bargain Bead Box for December 2025 and the companion bundle for December 2025. This was the Time Traveler Bargain Bead Box and companion bundle. Alright, I'm going to put links in the description to Bargain Bead Box if you would like to subscribe. It is one of the best value for money bead boxes out there. Absolutely love it. Subscribing also gives you a 30% off coupon you can use at the sister store, like to get a companion bundle, for instance, for any of their already at closeout price. Czech glass, gemstones, findings, etc. You can use the coupon code in the description. That will give you a few dollars off your first month's subscription as well. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It is one of the most popular bead boxes out there for a very good reason. And like I said a little earlier in this video, I am really looking forward to the January box. Jenny has already unboxed it, and mine should be getting here fairly soon, so you might be seeing something from me over the weekend. Until next time, my friends, happy beading!